So hello guys, welcome back. You're viewing Code with Mav YouTube channel, and in this lesson we are going to be learning about how to create this drop down button on the right hand side in the browser, the Chrome browser, and we are going to add features as hover actions. So as I hover, it changes the background color and also displays some three lists that also have hover effects. As I hover, they also change their background colors, and these lists can later be turned into links. This button, this drop down button, can be added onto websites to make them more realistic, adding some more designs, making it some adding making some better user interface and experience, preventing the crowding of the site, so that some other links can be added into the drop down lists and the navigation bar can have the major links. So let's begin with the programming. So we are going to be, this is lesson 15, and these are the HTML codes, and this is the CSS code. So let's program this all away from scratch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete the important code so that we can develop it on our own. So the CSS2, let me save, and so let's begin the development. So what we are going to do, we are going to start by the HTML code. So right here in the head tag, we are having the link tag that is linking our style sheet, the lesson 15.css. So whatever we style is going to be having a direct impact to our HTML code. So let us begin in the HTML. So that is external styling for those who are not aware of it. So now let's begin with the programming. So in the body tag, what we are going to do, we are going to be using divs, and these are used for grouping content. So we are going to make our first div. So it's going to be the wrapper div that is going to wrap all over the drop down. So let's call it drop down, the class. Let's give it a class of drop down. And within the wrapper div, let us add our button, the drop down button. We are going to use the HTML tag button, and we are going to give this button a class as well, drop down button. And the text on the button is going to be drop down. Button. So as you can see, this is the button, the wrapper div, and the button itself. So next we are going to be adding the lists that you observed. So okay, let us first style the button. So we come to the lesson 15.css. So we are going to be adding our styles. So let us add the styles to the drop down button. Drop down button. This button, let us style it. So we are going to give it a background like that of the beginning. At the beginning, the one that we saw, it was blue. So you can give it any kind of background you want. You are going to change the color of the text. So the text currently is black, but we are changing the color to white. So we are going to add some padding, that is the space within the button. So we are going to say 13 pixels. Yeah, so you can adjust the padding. So 13 pixels is going to be top, bottom, right, left. So we are going to also change the font size of the text. It's a little bit smaller, so we are going to change its font size to 16 pixels. Yeah, so as you can see, it's coming out. So this border, let's correct the border. As you can see, we see a black border. So okay, if I try using the developer tools, if I select the button, so it's currently having, so these are the styles of the button. So it is, so as you can see, styles, I used this to select the button. So when I selected the button, these were the styles that appeared. So it also gives us that it's having a margin of 000, it's having a border of 2 pixels. So as I select the border, you can see the border of the color changes, but we don't need any kind of border around. So this can be a great use of the developer tools, which is inspect. So to get it, you can use a shortcut. On Windows it is Ctrl Shift I, or you can right click and click inspect. So when you click inspect, it brings you all kinds of styles, and you can also change the styles from here. So I can say select the button, and I can add, I want a border none. So border none, you can see, as you can see, the border disappears. So if I copy this, paste it in my styles, I want border none. Yeah, so that's how great you can use the developer tools. So also remember, as we hover, I mean like point on it, so we need the cursor to be a pointer, not this usual cursor. So we can change the cursor style to pointer. Yeah, so you can see a change, cursor pointer. So if we check, so we created a wrapper div, which was drop down. So okay, before I add in the styles that we are going to add for the wrapper div drop down, let me first copy, and yeah, it deserves to be the top. So yeah, So we shall add the styles later. So I'll show you why I'll give you reasons as to why I style it the way I will be styling it. So we are done with that. Remember, the final product, as you hover, it brings up some lists. So let us create a div for those lists. Give it a class of Dropdown Menu. So let us create some links. So let's make like 4. Yeah, so these are the links. So we are going to style the links to. Let's go to the style sheet. Okay. So we are styling the drop down menu. So we use the class drop down menu. So first of all, we can use the developer tools. I encourage you to use the developer tools because they are really helpful. So if I select the lists, okay, let me select the entire. Okay, so drop down menu. So currently, initially we do not want these lists, these links to appear, so we need to give them a display of none. None, so that they can disappear. So okay, before we okay, let's give them a display of none, but let's first cross out that one because we need to fix some styles like the background color. Change the background color to light blue. Yeah, so let us also give it, so let us give it like a minimum width. We do not want this background to come until this, so what should, let us give it a width, minimum width. So let's give it the minimum width it should have. So let's add a minimum width. Let us try 100 pixels. Okay, let's change this to width 100 pixels. So that won't work. Let's we need this light blue to come until the end of the drop down box. So let's say 120, it won't work, 30, 40, 50. Yeah, so 150 works. So let's also so before we add the display none, we need to also have these aligned vertically, and these lists shouldn't be having such styles. They are underlined and they are in a blue color. So let's first, okay, let me add the class. So now what we are styling, we are going to be styling the anchors themselves, because those links are known as anchors. So we are going to be styling the anchors themselves, and these anchors are going to be of the drop down menu. So the anchors themselves, so let's change their color to black. Let's change the text decoration. We do not need them to be underlined. Say none. Let's give them a display of a block so that they are like kind of block form. So you see what display block gives us, returns out. So let's also increase on the padding. So let's increase the padding from the top and bottom padding. Let's give it like 11 pixels. Yes, and padding from the left and the right side, let's give it like 15 pixels. So these, let's also import our styles. Let's copy them and paste them here so that they are permanently in the. So these inspector tools do not permanently create code. They just help you to know how you should align your codes, how you should insert your codes into the what you're creating. It can also help you to know what if I add this, how will it look? If I add this, how will it look? So okay, so this is what we have so far, but that's not what we want. We want it to, okay, we wanted it to be display none, but before we give it a display none, let's also add the hover actions to these these anchors. So when we hover, what should happen, we need the background color to change to white. Yeah, so that is perfect. So we can now give these anchors a display of none. Okay, no, this shouldn't be for the anchors. This should go to the drop down menu as a whole. So what next is that when we hover over this button, we need now these drop down menus that are having display none to have a display of block. So dot drop down, this drop down is the whole div covering all of that content. When we hover, and so the action is going to the drop down menu. We need it to display block. So what we have just done is that when we hover, drop down, remember drop down is the drop down is the overall div. So when we hover on the drop down, we should have the drop down menu display block. So when we hover, we have this displaying block. So remember, we also want the background of our drop down button to change to gray. So we can also add that hover action. When we hover, we need the drop down button to have the following styles. Want its background color to turn to gray. Yeah, so that is it. So what I wanted us to add to the styles of the drop down, so for the drop down as the whole, the overall div is that we needed to add a display of inline so that this action can happen within the div but not outside the div. So what happens if we remove the display inline is that even though I am outside the div but close to it, the action happens. But if I say that if I add the display inline, this action will happen within the drop down. So you have actually made it. We are done with the drop down menu. Welcome back from that long session. Let me save this. So you can actually now create a drop down button, and you can add this to any kinds of website that you're creating. You can change the styles, make it appear even better than this, but this is the basic knowledge that you need to know. Yeah, so with this, you've been with Marv from Code with Marv. Thank you for viewing, and